Jack and the Beanstalk. Long, long ago, there lived a poor widow who had a little boy named Jack. It was not easy for her to get a living, and she was quite dependent on a cow that she owned. The cow gave her a great deal of milk, some of which the woman and the little boy drank, and some of which they sold. But at such times as the cow went dry, they fared very badly. On one such occasion, the woman said sorrowfully, with tears in her eyes, "I don't know what will become of us." "Cheer up, mother," Jack said. "I will go and get work." "You are too small," his mother told him. "No one would hire you." "Ah, well, I must take our cow to market and sell her." So she tied a rope to the cow's horns and led her away. But she had not gone far when she met a queer-looking old man who stopped and said, "Good morning, madam." "Good morning to you," was her response. "Where are you off to this morning?" the old man asked. "I'm going to market to sell my cow," the woman answered. "If that is the case," the old man said, "I will save you the trouble of going any further, for I will buy your cow right here." "And how much will you give me for her?" the woman inquired. Then the old man took a little bag from his pocket and opened it for her to look inside, but all she saw was a handful of beans. I will give you these beans in exchange for your cow," the old man told her. "I would rather not make such a bargain as that," the woman said. "Those beans would not be enough for one meal." "Oh, they are not for you to eat," the old man exclaimed. "You must plant them. They are magic beans that will bring you good luck, and they are worth much more than your cow." The woman looked again, and she saw that the beans were very curious and of many pretty colors. So at last she consented to take them and let the old man have the cow. But on her way home, the more she thought about what she had done, the more foolish she thought she had been. When she was back in her cottage kitchen, she poured the beans out into her hand and threw them into the fire. "I can't bear the sight of them," she said. "And now we shall soon starve, I suppose." She thought all the beans were burned, but one of them had rolled out across the floor. The next day, as she was sweeping, she swept the little bean along without noticing it, and she might have swept it into the fireplace had not her little boy Jack seen it. He picked it up and said, "I'm going to plant this bean, mother." So she took the bean out, dug a little hole near a corner of the cottage, dropped in the bean, and covered it with earth. The next morning, he found that its first leaves had pushed their way out of the ground. On the second morning, it was as tall as he was. On the third morning, it was as high as the house. And the morning after, it was as high as the church steeple. It kept growing so fast that its top was soon clear out of sight. Then Jack said, "I'm going to climb this beanstalk." And he climbed and climbed and climbed until at last he reached the sky. There he found a strange country without a tree, shrub, house, or living creature anywhere in sight. He sat down on a stone to rest and said, "If this is all there is up here, I may as well go home." But while he was resting, he saw a beautiful lady coming toward him along a path that led away over a hill. As soon as she arrived where Jack was, she spoke to him, and he rose and took off his hat. "I am a fairy," she said, "and I want to tell you something about your father. Do you remember him?" "No," Jack answered, "and when I ask my mother about him, she always begins to cry and will say nothing." "I thought as much," the fairy said, "and you will understand why your mother never speaks of him when you hear my story. He was a brave and generous knight, and the fairies were his friends and made him many wonderful presents. But after a time, a wicked giant came to your father's castle and killed him, and carried off all the wonderful things the fairies had given him. At the same time, the giant carried off your mother and you, who were then a little baby. He shut you both up in one of his dungeons, but at last he offered to release you and your mother on condition that she should never speak about her wrongs to anyone. She agreed, and he carried her to a place a great distance from where she had lived and been known before. There he left her with just money enough to rent a little cottage and buy a cow. That giant lives in the country where you are now, and if you follow this path, you will find his big castle over yonder hill. All that he has is rightfully yours, and perhaps you can contrive some way to regain possession of what he stole from your father.